Welcome back to the program. So, quite a few different things to talk about tonight. First and foremost, if you remember on Jeff's show yesterday, which by the way, I'm proud of myself, I figured out how to edit that. I figured out how to cut out the first part. I figured out how to turn it from an MP3, which is just an audio file, to an MP4. I figured out how to add the image in and all that. So, I do know how to do the Monday show. And I haven't tried yet, but I am going to, in the next day or two, try to put together the interview that I did with AJ Rice about almost 2 weeks ago. Because John has been in the hospital for well over a month. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But thank you all. I appreciate it very much for the well wishes and the concerns and the prayers. It's not looking good, but we'll discuss. In any event, there was some talk about President Trump nominating Kari Lake to be the ambassador to Mexico. Now, the problem with that is when you are appointed or nominated for a position like that, you got to go there. You have to represent. You have to go to the embassy. You have to live as an expatriate in that country. And you are the point person for the United States and that country. So, for instance, Kimberly Guilfoyle has now been appointed or nominated to be the ambassador to Greece. So that means that, bye-bye, she's going to Greece if she's confirmed. Which I'm sure, I guess, Don Jr. is probably happy about because he's got his new girlfriend. And I guess he wanted to send her as far away as possible. But anyway, so I don't like the fact that she could do that or that she would be that. Now, the good news is he has chosen somebody else, okay? But think about it. If she was put in Mexico, the cartels run Mexico. They run the government of Mexico, which means that her life would have been in very, very serious danger, especially if she was in Mexico. Whether she was at a U.S. consulate or an embassy or not, she would be in Mexico. And the things that she has said about the cartels, the things that she said about the open border and all that would put her life in danger. So I am extremely happy that she is not going to be the ambassador to Mexico. So instead, President Trump has announced that ex-Green Beret, I believe, and ex-CIA official Ronald Johnson is going to serve as his ambassador to Mexico. So that means at this point that Kari Lake is still, for whatever reason, not in the cabinet. Now, I think if she wasn't running for the Senate and they didn't steal it from her for the second time and she didn't have to go through all of that and the race and everything else, I believe she would have been the Department of Homeland Security Secretary rather than Kristi Noem. But he couldn't give her that job, mainly because she was still running for the Senate as they were stealing it from her. So, through executive order, I've already said that one of the positions that he ought to create is a Department of Election Integrity. Well, my buddy Ben Bergquam, you may know from Real America's Voice, also did an endorsement for my book. He had a great suggestion through executive action: create a voter czar, basically. An election czar is what they would be called. And she would be similar to a Tom Homan in the fact that she would have the power to go through the voter rolls of all the states and go through them and investigate all the different things, all the fraudulent activity that happened in this election, this 2024 election, in the stolen seats in Orange County, California, which, by the way, I'm hearing there is going to be some recounts, so it's possible we'll get one or two of those back. We'll see what happens. But also the 4 Senate seats, including hers, that was stolen from her in this election. And, of course, the 2022 midterms, which were stolen from her here in Arizona, and the 2020 election. So she would be a great person to create as an election czar for the government, and let her go to work. And if not that, then my suggestion would be for her to get out of Arizona. You're not going to get a fair shot here. You're not going to get a fair shake. They call you the female Trump, and they hate your guts, and they're not going to let you win elections here. So you might as well go to a state that is now plus 13, plus 14 for Republicans, the state you're originally from, the state that knows you as their first daughter, basically, and that is Iowa. Move to Iowa, gain your residency, and take Joni Ernst's seat. That's what you should do. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. There's also a possibility that she could be working for the Department of Justice under Harmeet Dillon, who has now been appointed or nominated to be the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. So perhaps there's some work that Kari Lake could do at the Department of Justice as well. So we'll see. We shall see what happens. So I wanted to touch on that. The other thing was this. Do you remember, and this was a while ago, but I did say this in probably 2019, 2020. I said at the time, if Hispanic voters ever turned on the Democrats and started voting for Republicans in huge, huge numbers, that the Democrats, I think I made a joke at the time, the Democrats would go down to the border with AK-47s and shoot them dead themselves, is what my joke was, because I know Right Wing Watch said something like, Josh Bernstein says if Republicans start winning elections, by gaining Hispanic voters, that Democrats will go down to the border with AK-47s and shoot them all, or something like that, which I was joking around, but yeah, I did say that. Well, I was correct, okay, as I've been on many other things, and Democrats are now saying exactly what I've been talking about. So the editor for Bulwark supports mass deportations now because, quote, Hispanics are unreliable Democrats. Exactly what I said 4 years ago. Jonathan Lass, the editor of the far-left Bulwark, has come out in favor of President-elect Donald Trump's mass deportations now that Hispanic voters are unreliable Democrat voters. Trump's desire to secure our border and deport illegal aliens is based on the rule of law. According to the laws written by representatives of the American people, if you enter the country illegally, you are supposed to be deported. These laws were written in good faith to protect our country's sovereignty, to ensure that we knew who was coming into the country, and to avoid undermining the standard of living of working American people. One of the greatest champions of working people, labor activist Cesar Chavez, this is their article, not mine, I wouldn't agree with that at all, vehemently opposed illegal immigration. He understood how it hurt not only the wages of the working class, but their power to negotiate with the food growers. All right, I don't care about Chavez, so let's see. From where I sit, Jonathan Lass's motive for suddenly backing mass deportations is a naked act of racism reminiscent of the Jim Crow South created by Democrats to punish black people who did not vote for Democrats. Lass is also admitting that illegal alien voters and those that have been imported by the tens of millions by Democrats typically favor their votes. Democrats should spend exactly zero political capital stopping any of Trump's deportation efforts, Lass explained over at the Blue Sky. I guess it's the new gay Twitter for pussies. He then added that this admission, it is madness to spend capital trying to help people who are no longer a major part of your electoral coalition. There it is on a silver platter for you. The borders were wide open for one reason and one reason only. We lost working class voters. We lost a huge percentage of black voters. We lost a huge percentage of legal Hispanic voters. So what are we supposed to do when we're losing our base of support? Well, we're supposed to import new people that don't know any better, that will vote for us because we gave them amnesty, because we brought them into the country, because we gave them driver's licenses, because we gave them, benefits and handouts and EBD cards and, all the other shit that we've done, right? But now all of a sudden, those people, thankfully, didn't vote in mass numbers in the elections, but Hispanic Republicans that were here legally have turned on the Democrats and are now a voting bloc for the Republican Party. So naturally, why on earth would the Democrats want more of these people to be in the country if they don't get any benefit out of it? And what's the benefit? To stay in power. So just like I said over 4 years ago, I was correct. And here it is. So they are admitting that the whole purpose of the open borders and the crime and everything else, they didn't care about. Remember what I've been saying for the longest time? It was collateral damage. So what? So what? Some Americans got murdered and raped and killed. Small price to pay to stay in power. That's their mentality. They don't care about us. They don't care about the American people. They certainly don't care even about their own constituents. All they care about is one thing and one thing only: staying in power. And thankfully, they're not going to stay in power. And now it is our opportunity to pass election integrity laws for all 50 states that mandate voter ID and, in addition, also ban 100% any foreigner from voting in our elections at any level, state, federal, presidential, doesn't matter. If we can do those two things, we're going to be in a very good situation moving forward. Okay? So anyway, wanted to cover that. And then the Luigi Mangione, or whatever the hell this kid's name is, it looks like his manifesto has been leaked. And I have a copy of it. It's very short. It's really not that long, but here it is. And I'm not the only one that has a copy of it. It's not like the trans shooter that had only a dozen people had it. And I still have it, by the way. But this one has been leaked to the Washington Post, CNN, NBC, and the New York Times. So it's out there, okay? And here's what it says. I'll put my glasses on here. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic computer-aided design, and yes, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife or trauma, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming to them. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the indecipherable, I guess they couldn't figure out what it said, largest company in the U.S. by market caption and share, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. It has grown and grown, but as our life expectancy, no, the reality is these people have simply gotten too powerful and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American people have allowed this to continue and allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is much more complex, but I do not have the space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed decades ago, and the problem simply still remains. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. So that's what that is all about. Look, nobody deserves the right to execute somebody and just kill them because they work for an insurance company. Does it suck that some of these insurance companies definitely look for ways to get out of paying claims? Yeah, clearly they do. A lot of them don't want to cover pre-existing conditions, things like that. I remember when Obamacare came out, and the big thing about Obamacare was that it mandated covering pre-existing conditions. Okay, fine, but what about the insurance companies? What about the amount of costs that they are going to incur by doing all that? What about them? Shouldn't they get something if they're going to be forced to do that? And look, I think we should cover pre-existing conditions. I'm humane about it. I think it'd be a great idea. But what about the private insurance companies? How can they afford to do that? It's very expensive. Well, you got to give them tax breaks. You got to give them tax incentives. You got to give them rebates. You got to give them huge, huge discounts. Whatever you have to do in order to make them still profitable, but also have the ability to cover people that are vulnerable, that need to have coverage, especially people with pre-existing conditions. So anyway, but you can't solve it with violence. These people on the left that are talking about how, I saw one psycho said, asking Biden if you can pardon this kid before you leave office. This is how twisted and anti-capitalist and anti-American and just all these crazy people are. They actually want someone like this that executed this CEO of this company, Thompson, on the street. They want to give him a pardon. Unbelievable. So anyway, he's not going to get pardoned. I doubt it. And he's going to be looking at more than likely the death penalty. Well, not in New York, but he'll probably be looking at a pretty long prison sentence. But then again, who knows, right? I mean, maybe Alvin Bragg says, he gives him probation. Who knows? Hope not. Anyway, so that was that. And then the last thing I was going to cover was going to be this. Have you noticed the change of tune on Susan Collins, on Lisa Murkowski, on Joni Ernst? They are now all supporting Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel. Why? Well, because we're doing things different than we have done in the past. We are not allowing the rhinos, at least at this point, to dictate to us what we and what they are going to do. Now, we have firepower behind us. We have Turning Point Action. We have Charlie Kirk, who has been rattling their cages and threatening them, and they're getting in line because of it, because they understand how powerful the grassroots is. Also, you've got Elon Musk putting out a warning Republicans against standing in Trump's way or, quote, his way. A week after President-elect Donald Trump's victory, Elon Musk said his political action committee would, quote, play a significant role in the primaries. The following week, the billionaire responded to a report that he might fund challengers to GOP House members and senators who don't support President Trump's nominees. How else? There is no other way, Musk wrote on X, which he rebranded after purchasing Twitter. And during his recent visit to Capitol Hill, Musk and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy delivered a warning to Republicans who don't go along with their plans to slash spending as part of President Trump's proposed Department of Government Efficiency. Elon and Vivek talked about having a naughty list and a nice list for members of Congress and senators, and how we can vote and how we're supposed to vote, and spending the American people's money, says Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Trump's second term comes with this is from Yahoo, by the way, with the specter of the world's richest man serving as his political enforcer. Within Trump's team, there is a feeling that Musk not only supports Trump's agenda and his cabinet appointments, but is intent on seeing them through to the point of pressuring Republicans who may be less devout. There you go. As one Trump advisor, speaking on condition of anonymity, has said to discuss this, Musk has come to enjoy his role on the campaign and that he clearly had the resources to stay involved. The advisor also notes that Musk's role is still taking shape. And Musk, once a supporter of President Barack Obama, before moving to the right in recent years, is famously mercurial. I think he was really important for this election when he bought Twitter and turned it into X, truly making it a free speech platform. I think that was integral to this election, to the win that Donald Trump had, said departing Republican National Committee co-chair Lara Trump, the president-elect's daughter-in-law. But I don't know that ultimately he wants to actually be in politics. I think he considers himself to be someone still on the outside. There are ads right now running in Iowa against Joni Ernst, okay? There are ads that Musk's and his PAC have spent millions of dollars on that were running in Iowa this entire week and last weekend. And they're also going to be doing it in Maine, and they're going to be doing it in Alaska, and they're going to be doing it in Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullins. They're going to be doing it in Utah for John Curtis. They're going to be doing it in Kentucky for Mitch McConnell. Although that one doesn't matter because he doesn't even know where he is anymore. I mean, he just fell down and he's a mess. He is really, truly a mess. He just sits there and stares. I mean, he can barely speak. It's unbelievable. But again, can't use the 25th Amendment because it's never been used and it doesn't work for anyone outside the executive branch. So can't use it for the House or the Senate. But anyway, so this is a good sign. This means that they're not going to sit back and accept the rhinos' behavior anymore. They're going to put pressure on them, guerrilla activism, whatever you want to call it, and make sure that these people understand we are watching everything and we expect you to do the right thing, which is not only to nominate and approve every single one of President Trump's appointed cabinet members, but more importantly, his entire agenda. That has to be their number one focus. And I think this time, with the amount of firepower from the richest man in the world and the best conservative organization in the world, I feel pretty confident that it'll get done. So, before I go, again, thank you all for the praises and the prayers and the heartfelt messages for John. I spoke with him today, and it's not good. It's not good. He's having multiple organ failure. When he got his mechanical heart, it was supposed to last about 5 years. And he's somewhere around 4.5 years right now. So he was able to get the majority of the time. But, he's not just my person that puts my videos together. He's a good, dear, close friend. I've known him for a very long time, 2012, 2013. Back in my early days, even on Facebook, he was one of the people that would always help share my show that I would do at the time, the Grit and Gray Show, actually. That's how long ago it was. And he would post them in groups on Facebook when Facebook was the Wild Wild West and you didn't get banned or censored. And I was able to grow, my following through that. So John's been with me. He's been with me a long time. And he showed me a couple of things. And I know how I actually did the Jeff Guerrero show the other night. I did that myself with an editing tool. So I figured out how to cut. I figured out how to convert an MP3 to an MP4, adding an image, making it an MP4, and being able to put up my segment on the show. So that means moving forward, I know how to do Monday nights. The other thing I think I know how to do, and I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to look into seeing if I can, is my interviews. Because I still have an interview with AJ from like 2 weeks ago that obviously hasn't been put together because of everything going on. John's been in the hospital well over a month. So I'm going to try to put that one together myself. What I don't know how to do is I don't know how to key out green screens. I don't know how to add in the banners with the ads and all that stuff. So I don't know what I'm going to do at this point. Probably nothing until, after the new year. But sadly, I don't believe John will be here by New Year's. As a matter of fact, I'm almost positive. But anyway, thank you all for the prayers. He's on pain medications, and they're making him comfortable because, I think we know. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. See you in the next one.